American troops are being forced out of the bases and into hotel rooms. And now those locations are being threatened too. Americans are being hunted. So, what exactly is going on over there?
Yeah, yeah.
So, what we're seeing right now is something most of us never thought we would see in our lifetime. We never thought we would see American bases all across parts of the Middle East being taken hostage or being damaged serious enough that troops are being relocated, some into civilian spaces like hotel rooms and office buildings. But you got to think about that. The most advanced military in the world operating out of temporary locations. Now, the Pentagon, it'll tell you that this is some kind of layered defense, that operations are still continuing, that this is all part of adapting in real time. And yeah, the military is built to adapt. I get all that. But adaptation doesn't mean there's no cost to our military. Because when troops are no longer operating from secured areas, secured bases, communication changes, coordination changes, protection changes. You lose efficiency, you lose structure, and most importantly, you increase your exposure. Our troops are being hunted off the bases. And here's the part they ain't talking about. Those new locations, they're not invisible. Iran and its allies have already signaled that they're watching and that they're tracking, and that any place housing American forces would become a target. Just think about that. If they stay in a place longer than usual, Iran and their allies are going to target it. That's scary for our troops and for people from home. So now you have the situation where troops are not only displaced, they're potentially more vulnerable. More vulnerable. That raises a bigger question. Was this anticipated? I don't think so, because the president didn't expect them to close the Strait of Hormuz. Long-term strategy. What happened to long-term strategy according? Why didn't anybody think that these bases would be under attack? Were these bases hardened enough? Were they fortified enough? Or was there a miscalculation about how Iran would respond? I don't understand why you all didn't anticipate this. Because when you hear that tens of thousands of troops were in the region at the start of the conflict, and now many of those have scattered, relocated, or even pushed out of the region altogether, that's not just a tactical adjustment. That's a shift. And nobody expected that shift. Why didn't they? And the reality is simple. Wars are not just about what you strike. They're about what you can sustain. So the question becomes, if the bases are compromised and the troops are being pushed into temporary housing environments, what does that say about how this conflict is unfolding? What does that say about our leaders and their foresight capabilities? So everybody keeps acting like this just happened, like troops ending up in hotels, like confusion overseas, like systems under pressure just fell out of the sky. Just who knew? Who knew? No, that's not how this works. This is what it looks like when an administration doesn't anticipate what's coming. Or worse, they knew pressure was building and still didn't prepare for this. You got US troops, trained, structured, organized, now being pushed out of bases and into hotels and office spaces. Not secured installations, not controlled environments, temporary, reactive. And people are trying to treat this like it's normal. It's not normal. That is a response to something going completely wrong upstream. Because here's the truth nobody is saying. The military doesn't just run out of space. That doesn't happen overnight. That happens when planning doesn't match reality. You plan for capacity. You plan for escalation. You plan for strain. That's literally the job. So when troops are displaced like this, that tells you something very simple. Either the situation changed faster than expected or leadership didn't anticipate it at all. And both of those are a problem. Because look at what's happening at the same time. You got mixed messages globally. On one side, you've got Donald Trump saying negotiations are moving, progress is being made. On the other hand, you've got Iran saying there are no talks, not no real talks. Now think about that. If you're planning operations, if you're positioning troops, if you're managing resources, you need clarity, right? You don't get to plan off confusion. You don't get to build strategy off contradictions. So now ask yourself, if leadership doesn't even have a consistent read on what's happening diplomatically, how are they properly preparing operationally? That's the disconnect. And the disconnect shows up in real ways for our troops. Not in press conferences, not in statements, in the outcomes, like troops in hotels and office buildings. Because that's not just an inconvenience, that's a signal. A signal that something wasn't aligned, that preparation didn't match reality, that decisions were made without fully accounting for what could happen next. And this is where people start getting uncomfortable, right? Because it ain't about politics, this is about competence. You don't get to be surprised at this level of the game. You just do not. I'm sorry. You don't. We're talking about one of the most structured systems in the world. The United States Department of Defense is built on planning, contingencies, backups for backups. So when something like this breaks through, it means multiple layers didn't hold. And people will try to soften it. They'll say, oh, well, things are changing fast. Well, situations evolve. Yeah, that's exactly why you plan ahead. You don't wait for pressure to hit and then figure it out after the fact. That's reaction. That's not leadership. Leadership is seeing where this is going and being ready before it gets there. Because once you're reacting, you're already behind. And that's what this feels like we running behind these folks over here in the Middle East, behind on preparation, behind on coordination, behind on understanding what's actually unfolding before our eyes. And when you're behind at that level, it goes downhill. Shit falls downhill. It affects troops' conditions. It affects readiness. It affects how quickly you can respond if things escalate further. Because now you're not operating from strength. You're operating from adjustment. And adjustment is unstable. Now, here's the part we ain't saying out loud. When systems start adjusting instead of executing, that's when mistakes happen. That's when things slip. That's when consequences show up where you didn't expect them. And all of this, every piece of it, the Iran war, the closing of Hormuz, the staff and the troop in hotels, it points back to one thing. This was not fully anticipated by this administration. Either the risk was underestimated or the preparation didn't match the risk. And at this stage of the game, that's not a small thing. That's a big thing. We're not talking about delayed shipment. We're not talking about a scheduling issue. We're talking about military structures, global positioning, real world consequences. And those are starting to crack. And people are starting to notice, and we can all feel it. And you can feel when something is being held together in real time. And right now, this feels like being held together. Not falling apart, but not fully locked in either. Y'all ain't locked in. And that middle area, that gray area, that's where risk is. That's where things can go left really fast. Our troops are in hotel rooms being hunted. Yeah. Being haunted. And the real question is just what's happening with you people in these offices in real time. What else has not been fully anticipated yet? Because if this caught the system off guard, this blowing up all the bases around the Middle East, if that caught y'all off guard, what's next? And this is what we really need to be paying attention to. Our troops are in hotel rooms being targeted and haunted. I see y'all in the next one. Wow.